Right, Haven Holiday Park mascots Bradley the bear, Anxious the elephant and Greedy the gorilla have had a bit of a makeover by park bosses and it's causing a stir. In come Jazz, Bradley's female niece, Bradley's niece, Annie the elephant and George the gorilla. Apparently it's a way to avoid offending nervous or overweight kids. But are we in danger of bringing up kids who are a bit too easily offended, Sunetra?
Well, Andy has just been talking about how important books were to her, and I think books and stories are like the roots to our imagination, just forming an imagination when you're a kid. You know, we tell kids these stories and we talk about giants and witches and you know, princesses, and I feel like that's the tapestry of what we end up becoming our dreams. So if we take away, like, characters that have got these sort of attached names, like Anxious the elephant, and I'm sure there's some children who probably responded well to that. I understand that we have to be careful about, you know, just because he's called Greedy, if we're not watching him stuffing his face, doesn't mean he has to be the same kind of greedy as what we're told is wrong. You know, why is everything so negatively perceived? And especially when it comes to something like children believing in, like, magic and stuff like that. So I kind of wish they wouldn't go too far with it.
But they're not taking the characters away. They're still doing the characters. It's just giving them a slightly different name. I mean, Haven, in response, has said that the Seaside Squad have been part of the Haven family for over 30 years. And during this time, we've had a few different looks and lineups. And for this latest lineup, we had the opportunity to reimagine the design, colours and accessories of the characters in order to keep them fresh. So it's not getting rid of it, it's keeping them
They look very
fresh.
anodyne, though, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they just look like anything else. I love a bit of vintage toy.
They look
completely different. Yeah.
You know what? I just think that obviously we have to be careful with certain namings and stuff like that and labels. But from my previous role, you know, as a social worker, I know that sometimes stories or books can help children to explain situations that has happened to them, explain an uncomfortable situation that they couldn't do verbally, but they can map it out through a book. So I think, you know, like you said about maybe someone who's anxious or a child may be able to say, oh, I feel a bit like Teddy, the anxious Teddy, or because they can't describe it. So I think we have to be careful of taking away those opportunities of having an open space for children to be able to have a conversation.
But what they're not saying is that they are taking that space away. They're just using different names. I think we have to perhaps be aware of using things like greedy, for example, because the kids who experience being shamed at school for being big, those are the words that we use to associate with those kids. And I think it's easy for adults to forget that feeling they had as kids when they were teased for such things. It does shape who you become as an adult. And it's not saying they're not going to deal with those themes, they're just going to deal with them in a slightly different way. So not saying it's wrong to deal with those themes, they're just doing it with different names, that's all.
So where would we stop?
Exactly. And do you know what? It actually mirrors back to our first conversation today about Teresa, about how, you know, the health secretary is getting shamed for the way she looks. It's about the way we perceive it. Now, you can have a greedy caterpillar that's that big. Nobody's going to sit there and say, oh, you look like the greedy caterpillar, when it's about how you frame it. We can be clever about how we make those names sound.
I mean, greedy about money, greedy about love, greedy is a word that we need.
Yeah.